at one point or another, we've all been in the conversations where people say that character A is able to one-shot or defeat all the characters in character B, some type of anime organization. However, just how difficult would it be to actually take down an organization as powerful as the Akatsuki? Well, in today's Strongest in Naruto video, we're going to explain just how difficult it be to take down the Akatsuki and exactly what order I believe you should start with when fighting the Akatsuki as an organization by yourself. Due to the many different versions of the Akatsuki that exist, we're only going to be using the Akatsuki as we know them in the Naruto manga from volume 28 onward. So this means no Orochimaru since he wasn't a member during this part of the timeline, and no filler Akatsuki members because we don't really care about filler over here. We also won't count Zetsu since he isn't a natural fighter, and as a win condition when you beat the 6 paths of pain, we're just going to count that as Nagato's defeated. We all know that the Akatsuki are a super strong group of Kage level shinobi handpicked by Obito and Nagato, but just how deadly is this group as a collective? Well, fighting this group as a collective is dangerous because this is hands down the most diverse group of shinobi we've ever seen in the franchise, with the only other group having this much diversity to match them in terms of the different ways they can attack you are the 7 Hokage of Konoha, which if this video hits 2,000 likes, I'll begin working on a Strongest in Naruto video for the 7 Hokage. You have long-range fighters like Deidara and Konan, a mid-range specialist in Sasori who can control 100 puppets, and you got a close-range fighter like Hidan who only needs a drop of your blood to kill you. You got a genjutsu specialist in Itachi who can kill you with this genjutsu. You have shinobi like Kakuzu and Kisame who can either fight you in close range or long range, and with Kisame you have someone who can absorb chakra throughout the fight, and Kakuzu has 5 different hearts which requires him being killed 5 separate times. Then you have the 6 paths of pain, each with their own specific Rinnegan power that ranges from the ability to rip out souls to the power to blow away the whole area. And then you have Orange Mask Obito who, while weaker than White Mask Obito, is still a problem to deal with because of the Kamui Jutsu. On top of that, the Akatsuki are even more overpowered when you consider what we're told in Naruto volume 35, which is that it takes years of change in chakra nature drills just to learn 1 change in chakra nature, and it's really only Jonin who are expected to have 2 changes in chakra nature. Out of all the Akatsuki members who are listed with a change in chakra nature, none of them have any fewer than 3 changes in chakra nature, which is a further testament to why they're considered to be so skilled and why they're given the S rank in the bingo books. 2 of those shinobi and Obito and Kakuzu are some of the few shinobi in the Naruto world who have mastered all 5 changes in chakra nature. You also have 1 shinobi in Kisame who has 4 changes in chakra nature: water release, fire release, wind release, and earth release. You have 3 shinobi who have at least 3 changes in chakra nature: in Itachi who has fire release, wind release, and water release; Konan who has wind release, earth release, and water release; Deidara who has earth release and lightning release; and the Kekkei Genkai for explosion release. The 2 shinobi who don't have any changes in chakra nature at all, Hidan and Sasori, make up for it due to their hacks fighting style. One only needs 1 drop of your blood to kill you, and the other one has 100 puppets that have poison coated weapons that can kill you and use the Kekkei Genkai of whatever human puppet Sasori uses. As we go through the Akatsuki members individually, I want you to keep in mind that while dealing with all these attacks and combinations, due to Hidan being in the group, you have to contend with each of these Kage level shinobi without shedding any blood in the process. The same holds true for Itachi and Obito, who only need brief eye contact in order to kill you with genjutsu. For that reason, we're going to start with Hidan. Not counting Zetsu, Hidan is the Akatsuki member who many people consider to be the weakest, but he's easily one of the most dangerous, and the fact that he battled and killed Asuma, who at the time was one of Konoha's elite Jonin, speaks volumes. According to the Sasuke Book of Sunrise novel, even before he joined the Akatsuki, Hidan had a reputation amongst other smaller villages as being too powerful and too deadly of a shinobi to even bother trying to collect the bounty on his head. While this is partly due to his immortality jutsu and his blood ritual, we see in his battles with Asuma and his brief skirmishes with Kakashi that he's more than skilled enough at close quarters combat to give even the elites from the strongest of the ninja villages a problem, which is even more impressive when you consider while fighting Kakashi, Hidan was actually at a disadvantage because Kakashi had the Sharingan Eye of Insight, which can predict Hidan's movements before he makes them, and despite this, Hidan was able to still pressure Kakashi at times. The other problem with Hidan is due to the experiments done on his body willingly by the Jashin cult. Hidan is the closest thing that you get to being immortal for a human. While he technically isn't immortal in the sense that Kishimoto confirmed for us back when Naruto was as a weekly manga that Hidan can die if he doesn't get nourishment. In combat, he's really hard to kill. You can stab his internal organs and the guy still lives. It took Shikamaru blowing his body to pieces and burying him alive to take out Hidan. His triple-bladed scythe allows for short and long-range combat. Being able to be thrown at the enemy and retracted in midair, it makes Hidan really hard to deal with in battle, even more so when you consider the way that those blades are made up and how the curve is meant to specifically draw blood if you block them head on, which means you have to block the attacks from his weapon at the right angle, otherwise Hidan gets your blood. If he does get your blood, all he has to do is go inside of that pentagram triangle circle and ingest your blood, and he can kill you by giving himself a fatal wound because your bodies are connected. For that reason, Hidan has to be the first one that you take out, otherwise you risk having your blood ingested, because against this many high-level shinobi, you are going to bleed. But this gets even more tricky because cutting off his head isn't enough. You gotta literally blow this dude to bits in order to prevent Kakuzu from reattaching his body, which means using high-level jutsu that likely takes a lot of chakra right out the gate, and against a group this strong and diverse, you're gonna need all the chakra you can spare. After taking out Hidan, things do not get much easier because you have to keep in mind where Obito and Itachi are at all times due to their Sharingan Genjutsu, but if you can do that, your next step has to be to target Konan, and this is assuming she didn't have prep time to place the entire battlefield with a large section of paper bombs that are disguised as the battleground itself, because if she did, not even Obito with this Hax Mangekyo's Sharingan power was able to be safe from her attack. Obito had to use Izanagi in order to survive that onslaught. Taking down Konan will not be easy. She grew up in an era of the Second Ninja War and was the student of the legendary Toad Sage Jiraiya, who outright praised her skill both as a young girl as well as an adult. Konan presents a problem because her jutsu to convert her chakra into paper and transform the structure of her body into paper makes her a lot harder to take down than you think. She's made out of paper, so you think fire release would be enough to take her down, but in truth, she's shockingly durable. She survived Jiraiya's fire-style flame bullet jutsu without taking in any heavy damage and was able to push it back by converting her chakra into paper and pushing back against it in the process. You might be thinking if fire release isn't enough to burn her, then surely water release can wear her down and make her soggy, but in a battle in the Rain Village against Obito, this proves this isn't the case either. Jiraiya had to use his toad oil in order to get some type of an advantage. Not only that, but the longer a battle with Konan goes, the more likely she is to break down the secret of any jutsu you use, because she's one of the few people in the series who were able to figure out the secrets behind Obito's Kamui. Konan, from what we've seen, is better suited from fighting from a distance, and it's for a really good reason. Her paper drizzle jutsu allowed her to overpower Jiraiya's fire release by converting her chakra into paper and shooting off rapid projectiles at her target. The paper chakram is done in a very similar way by converting her chakra into paper, but this time she makes it into a chakram, which is a bladed disc that moves through the air at high speeds, and because it's made out of her chakra, Konan can manipulate the direction, so it's not as simple as you dodge it once and you have nothing to worry about, because this jutsu allows Konan the opportunity to land multiple sneak attacks. There's a reason why in the manga, Obito, the moment he noticed that she was making this jutsu, the man did not hesitate to speed blitz her before she could use it, because Obito knew how bothersome this was going to be to deal with, which further backs up Obito's praise on how dangerous she is as an Akatsuki member. Next, things don't get easier, because then you got to turn your attention to Kisame, because the longer the battle drags on, the more of your chakra he's going to steal using the blade Samihada, which should not be understated. Samihada is regarded as the most dangerous out of all the blades belonging to the 7 ninja swords of the mist for a reason. Kisame, wielding this blade on top of absorbing chakra, it can also cut through ninjutsu shot at Kisame, and it extends its scales to potentially stab the enemy, which we saw when Asuma tried to fight Kisame in part 1. The chakra absorbed by the blade can then be transferred to Kisame, which makes Kisame hands down one of the top 3 most annoying Akatsuki members that you're gonna have to fight. Kisame on his own is already a monster. He's one of the few shinobi who have chakra levels that are comparable to that of a tailed beast, leading to the nickname the tailed beast without a tail. His clone at 30% was able to overwhelm a weaker Might Guy than the one we saw in the war. After Guy was forced to cough up blood, and after Guy saw that his team was safe in the manga, he proceeded to use the 6th gate to destroy a clone of Kisame. By the events of the war, a much stronger Might Guy using the 6th gate was able to stalemate Kisame and eventually take him down using the 7th gate itself. His durability was enough to survive Killer Bee's version 2 Lightning Lariat and Might Guy's Daytime Tiger, which is described more than once as being a killing jutsu, and even when his body was at death's door in the man's chakra was being suppressed by Yamato's wood release restraints, Kisame, just using his own raw strength, was able to break out of those restraints. Due to being one of the most powerful swordsmen in the history of the Hidden Mist Village, Kisame is one of the most talented swordsmen in the history of the Naruto franchise, which means even if he doesn't have Samihara, if the man has a sword in his possession, he's going to give you a hell of a fight. If that isn't crazy enough, as a sign of his enormous chakra reserves, Kisame is able to cover the entire battlefield in a dome of water, which continues to expand as he moves within the dome itself, as shown in the battle with Killer Bee, which means Kisame has every advantage in that battle, assuming that you don't drown in the process of fighting him while you're within that dome, or he doesn't convert his chakra into water release sharks to bite you up and rip you to shreds. Don't underestimate those water release sharks either, because the man was able to overwhelm Might Guy using Morning Peacock, which is an attack that Guy uses while in the Sixth Gate, which is telling for how strong it is. In the Akatsuki Hidan novel, when Kisame is trapped in a water release jutsu, the man literally breaks out of it by releasing so much chakra that it shatters the water dome he's trapped inside of, which shocks Itachi due to how much chakra and how dense the chakra had to be in order to do this. When you're taking down Kisame, it's going to be no small feat when you consider all these things, especially given how many jutsu Kisame can casually shoot off in a battle that require enormous chakra reserves to do. If that isn't enough, you have to pick between Deidara and Sasori for who to deal with next. Both are equally dangerous, despite Sasori being confirmed to be stronger than Deidara in the manga. Deidara has his explosive bombs he can shoot off, and Sasori uses human puppets that are coated with poison so complex that not even the poison goddess Chiyo was able to come up with the antidote, and Sasori, the maker of the poison himself, states that the antidote is extremely complex for him to make. If you choose to go after Sasori, you have the 100 puppets to deal with, and several of these puppets are confirmed to have Kekkei Genkai, and if you look at the manga, one of the puppets appears to have a Sharingan, which means at some point in the Third Ninja War, Sasori managed to kill one of the Uchiha on the battlefield, which is pretty impressive. Sasori is no pushover at all. Anyone who can kill the third Kazekage, who for most of Naruto's manga was considered the strongest Kazekage, that guy's no joke. The reason why the guy's even called Sasori of the Red Sand is because when the dude entered onto the battlefield, it was always a sea of blood. Trained at the time by the greatest puppet master and poison specialist, Sasori is one of the biggest threats on the battlefield. You'll have to first destroy his Hiriko puppet in order to draw out his main body, but the guy can move his heart between puppets, which means you're going to have a pretty tough time trying to face him. You also don't just have to worry about 100 puppets, because Sasori can also, like his grandmother Chiyo, control humans with his chakra threads. Due to Sasori being a puppet master, it's in your best interest to get him in close combat. It's in your best interest to get him in close quarters combat, but the problem is that Sasori with 100 puppets is a complete monster, being able to take down the entire country on his own. His main puppet body has blades that are coated with poison, and he has modified his limbs to shoot out a combination of high pressure water release that can cut through boulders and fire release that can melt you on impact. Some of the puppets that he uses, like the third Kazekage puppet, are able to shoot out poison gas on top of having poison needles and weapons inside of them. Like with the Kazekage puppet, one of the hands actually has poison coated weapons inside of it, and even with the iron sand that puppet uses, Sasori has that coated with his deadly poison as well. After taking down Sasori, you've got to turn your attention to Deidara, and the battle with Deidara has to go down very quickly if you're smart. Anyone powerful enough to push a 3-tomo Sasuke with Orochimaru absorbed in his body and the 10 times multiplier of the curse mark to the point of exhaustion where Sasuke needed days to recover is not someone you want to engage with in battle quickly. However, due to him taking extreme preparations following Itachi one-shotting him, Genjutsu won't be the easiest thing to pull off on Deidara. Deidara is someone you have to take out before he goes for his heavy hitter jutsu, including his trump card, which is to blow himself up like a nuclear warhead. Despite his quick temper, Deidara is actually one of the smartest shinobi who we see in battle, being every bit the example what Kakashi meant when he said that a ninja must see through deception, because he uses tricks and misdirection as well as any shinobi. Deidara's combat skills often go underappreciated by a lot of fans. It says something this dude was able to push Gaara in battle despite Gaara being surrounded by sand in the sand village, and Deidara was able to use Gaara's protection of the village as a way to take him down. Gaara was a prodigy. Sasuke is one of the biggest prodigies in the entire Uchiha clan, and Deidara pushed him to the breaking point despite Sasuke having the one chakra nature that negates Deidara's jutsu. His C1 allows him to make small animals out of clay, oftentimes birds, in order to blow up his enemy. C2 uses more chakra, but it makes a clay dragon that can shoot off projectiles at the enemy that can explode, and Deidara can ride on his back from up high. The thing can also make landmines that if Obito feels like joining in, Obito can hide them on the ground, which makes this entire battle that much harder if you don't have lightning release or the Sharingan to see the location. Low-key, you need both of them. C3 allows Deidara to drop a small statue from the air with enough destructive force to blow up an entire village. C4 is one of his most deadly jutsu, which allows him to create microscopic bombs that go into the bloodstream of his enemy and detonates from inside, destroying the person on a cellular level. The craziest thing is that without the Sharingan or without the Byakugan, you wouldn't be able to tell these bombs are inside of you. Finally, C0 allows Deidara to blow himself up in a blast that covers 10 kilometers in distance. At this point, if you manage to survive the Akatsuki so far, you still have 9 more shinobi to take down. The 6 paths of pain, Obito, Kakuzu, and Itachi. While dodging the human path, which can rip out your soul, and the Naraka path that can rip out your tongue and kill you, you're probably gonna want to go against Kakuzu, and this time Kakuzu isn't gonna make it easy to kill him like he did with Naruto, where he foolishly combined all his hearts into one spot in order to be killed. Anyone strong enough that Kakashi says out of exhaustion was annoying to deal with and has to be killed multiple times in a battle is an absolute problem. Outside of Obito, he's the only Akatsuki member with mastery of all 5 changes in chakra nature, and because his hearts can move on their own in the bodies that he creates and use combination ninjutsu where they combine chakra natures for attacks, this is going to be another battle that requires a ton of chakra to take him out, and you got to kill him multiple times. The wind release pressure damage jutsu shoots out a tornado of wind release that can wipe out the entire area, and it can be combined with this fire release searing migraine, which when combined with that tornado vortex creates a firestorm that can destroy the entire area and reach levels so hot that it can evaporate water instantaneously. Kakuzu's speed is extremely impressive when you consider that in the manga he was able to blitz Kakashi when Kakashi was using his Raikiri to attack Hidan. And it's important to remember Raikiri requires moving at high speeds. This does not get talked about enough when discussing Kakuzu. His taijutsu skills enough that he more than matched Kakashi in taijutsu, despite the fact that Kakashi is someone who in his generation is only rivaled by Might Guy, a taijutsu master, and Obito, and Kakuzu did this despite Kakashi having the Sharingan Aya insight to predict Kakuzu's movements. His intelligence also makes him a fearsome fighter because he's almost as good of a strategist as Shikamaru, and it says something that you need a Shikamaru level IQ in order to outsmart Kakuzu. Finally, after taking down Kakuzu, your worst nightmare continues to get worse. Everyone left here has a dojutsu. Itachi and Obito have the Mangekyo Sharingan, and Nagato's 6 paths of pain each have the Rinnegan. You're basically gonna have to fight 8 dojutsu users using the strongest of the Kekkei Genkai that we have in this series so far. Given each of the 6 paths of pain have their own unique Rinnegan power they can use, you're probably gonna want to start off with them, and your first target needs to be the animal path for one reason. On top of summoning multiple animal summonings to fight you, it can also summon animals that can hide the chakra signature and presence of Itachi and Obito in a battle by camouflaging their location, which means you need some type of a barrier ninjutsu like Jiraiya in order to track them. Battling against the spam of the animal summonings isn't going to be easy, especially while fighting the other 6 paths of pain. But assuming you can obliterate this animal path to pieces and remove the chakra rods, the next thing you need to do is go after the Naraka path, who can summon the King of Hell. And if it isn't used to rip out your tongue and kill you, the King of Hell can also repair the damaged 6 paths of pain. So this needs to be the next pain that you go after to destroy. If you're a shinobi who spams ninjutsu, you'll also want to take out the Preta path next, because any ninjutsu you use are going to be destroyed. Then you'll want to take out the human path, because with one touch the human path can rip out your soul, though KCM1 Naruto shows that you can resist having the soul being ripped out if you're physically strong. But in a battle setting like this, who really wants to take that chance? Then you'll have to take out the Asha path, which can make weapons ranging from buzzsaws to laser beams. Then you got to take out the Deva path, which is in possession of the strongest of the Rinnegan's basic jutsu, the Chibaku Tensei, which can crush you inside of a giant meteor. It can also push away attacks aimed at you and pull you towards itself or in the direction of other jutsu, with the bare minimum cooldown period being 5 seconds, but it depends on how much chakra is exerted for each of these jutsu. Just the Deva path alone has enough in the tank to slapbox with Six Tails Naruto, which that in itself is a feat. Assuming you get done with these two, you got an even bigger problem with the 2 Uchiha who remain. You'll want to follow Might Guy's advice of not looking directly in the eyes of a Sharingan user unless you have a Sharingan, and even then, given Itachi's Mangekyo Sharingan Genjutsu can be activated in a picosecond, you don't want to risk looking Itachi directly in the eyes because of the Tsukiyomi. This also means you'll want to use some type of sensory ability while fighting against Obito in this area because he can use Kamui to sneak up on you, which means you'll probably want to be a Sage Mode user with the ability to go into it instantaneous like Hashirama did, so you can constantly sense Obito's location. Fighting Itachi is not easy. Anyone strong enough at the age of 13 years old to one-shot Orochimaru, a Kage-level shinobi who at the time was considered one of the strongest shinobi alive, is nobody you take lightly. The main advantage you have over Itachi is his stamina, but the fact that Itachi, despite this illness, still weaves hand signs faster than the Sharingan can track, Itachi is a monster to deal with in battle. This is even more so when you consider that even while heavily restraining himself, Itachi was able to push 3 of Konoha's elite Jonin, Kakashi, Asuna, and Kurenai to the limits in part 1 of Naruto. Even with this illness, he was able to push Sasuke to the limit. This is the same Sasuke who had power-ups from having Orochimaru absorbed in his body, having the hatred amp of his Sharingan, and having the 10 times multiplier of the curse mark. And not only did Itachi push Sasuke to his limits, but Obito stated Itachi could have killed Sasuke at any moment had he wanted to, and in the Sasuke Jinraiden novel, it's directly stated by Sasuke himself that a sick Itachi was stronger than the Sasuke who had Mangekyo Sharingan who would fight Killer Beast soon afterward. When Itachi uses shadow clones, the man uses them in the most savage of ways because he uses them to blow up. If he ever uses his Susanoo, he has the Yada Mirror, which can negate all ninjutsu that use the basic 5 chakra natures. He has the Tosca Blade, which can seal you away if he ever uses it, and he has the Chakra Bead so he can shoot off his projectiles. If Itachi ever does use Tsukiyomi on you, it's lights out because he's able to kill you with Genjutsu. If after all of that you manage to survive the battle with Itachi, you now have to go after Obito Uchiha. In just Taijutsu alone, Obito is an elite who was able to stalemate War Kakashi and dictate the flow of the battle itself, and his Genjutsu is powerful enough he did what should be impossible, which is he was able to control a perfect Jinchuriki in Yagura, the 4th Mizukage. Due to having Hashirama cells, Obito can also use wood release in combat. He was able to easily toy with 2 of the strongest root shinobi serving under Danzo, and when he fought against Minato, he was able to push Minato in that battle, which is impressive given Minato is one of the strongest shinobi who ever lived. Obito also can use fire release wave wild dance jutsu, which combines his Kamui with fire release to shoot off a spiraling wave of fire release, and he can also shoot out projectiles from his Kamui like shuriken. A battle with Obito, if he's being serious, is going to come down to an assessment just like Minato had, which is being able to hit Obito in the moment he makes himself tangible, using his Kamui, and given the course of the battle and the gradual regeneration that Obito has, you'll want to make sure you hit Obito with enough force when he makes himself tangible that you end this in one shot, because a prolonged battle against Obito becomes a problem because he's eventually going to trap you inside his Kamui dimension, which means you lose the fight. As you can see, while the Akatsuki do move in pairs, it's safe to say if they actually teamed up all together for a battle, the entire Akatsuki moving together is one of the most dangerous fighting forces that we have in the entire series. Which Akatsuki member do you think is the hardest to take down, and in what order would you actually take down the Akatsuki if you were fighting them alone?